Hi again. In the inside story of Jehovah's Witnesses, called in Britain the Year of Doom 1975, at the end of the chapter, The Illusion of the Last Days, now Stevenson, who had been a circuit servant in the days before circuit overseers in the 1950s and 60s, is talking about why they're fixated now on the date 1975. He explains it this way. In fact, according to the latest chronological prediction of the Society, counting from the time of writing in the year 1967, it would seem that there are but 8 short years left at the outside before the Battle of Armageddon brings an end to this evil world. In the October 8, 1966 issue of The Awake, the basis of this prediction is explained. Since the witnesses believe that the creative days of Genesis are 7,000 years in length, for reasons which I outlined at the beginning of this chapter, and since man was created at the close of the 6th day, in the autumn of the year 4026 BC, as this article precisely puts it, it follows that we are nearing the end of the first 6,000 years of man's existence. If the date of the creation of man, 4026 BC, is also the date of the beginning of the 7th creative day, or Sabbath, it is therefore calculated that the end of the first 6,000 years of this 7,000-year-long day will take place in the year 1975. Since the last 1,000 years of this 7th day are to be occupied entirely by the millennial reign of Christ, it follows that the year 1975 will witness the Battle of Armageddon and the ushering in of the long-awaited New World Order, or New World under the King Jesus Christ. As the article concludes, so we can expect the immediate future to be filled with thrilling events for those who rest their faith in God and His promises. Stevenson goes on, since the calculation is such a simple one of merely counting 6,000 years forward from the year 4026 BC, why has this startling revelation about 1975 not been made before? In answering this question, a quite extraordinary contradiction of previous statements made by the Society on this matter comes to light. For only 3 years prior to the publication of this article, the Society discussed this subject quite fully in the book All Scripture is Inspired of God and Beneficial. That's 1963. A full quotation from page 286 is of such interest as to be worthwhile reproducing here. Quote, "Of what significance is this today? It means that by the fall of 1963, mankind has dwelt upon this earth 5,988 years. Does this mean, then, that by 1963 we had progressed 5,988 years into the day on which Jehovah has been resting from all his work? No, for the creation of Adam does not correspond with the beginning of Jehovah's rest day. Following Adam's creation, and still within the 6th creative day, Jehovah appears to have been forming further animal and bird creations. Also, he had Adam name the animals, which would take some time, and he proceeded to create Eve. Whatever time elapsed between Adam's creation and the end of the 6th day must be subtracted from the 5,988 years in order to give the actual length of time from the beginning of the 7th day until now. It does no good to use Bible chronology for speculating on dates that are still future in the stream of time." Yet, Stevenson says, 3 years later, the Society does this very thing that the book so specifically condemns. If we turn further back into the Society's literature to the February 1, 1955 issue of the Watchtower, the confusion, contradiction worsened considerably. For we read on page 95, quote, "The very fact that is part of Jehovah's secret, no one today is able to find out how much time Adam and later Eve lived during the closing days of the 6th creative period, so no one can now determine when 6,000 years of Jehovah's present rest come to an end. Obviously, whatever amount of Adam's 930 years was lived before the beginning of that 7th day rest of Jehovah, that unknown amount would have to be added to the 1976 date." Notice the difference. The date itself 1976. The date 1976 is not a misprint for 1975. It is because the Society has on several occasions changed its mind about the date of Adam's creation. In the book The Truth Shall Make You Free, that is in 1943, it is given as 4028 BC. In 1944, in the book The Kingdom is at Hand, it is given as 4026 BC. But in 1953, in the book New Heavens and a New Earth, it was altered to 4025 BC. Hence, in the above quotation, counting from 4025 BC forward, 6,000 years, we arrive at 1976. Since then, of course, the date of Adam's creation has been altered yet again, and so we are now fixed on 1975 as the potential year of doom. It would be difficult to explain why there has been such a change in ideas about speculating on dates that are still future in the stream of time. Perhaps the Society has noted a growing apathy among the witnesses as the years keep passing by, and Armageddon is still in time future, and so has brought out this date in order to rekindle zeal and devotion. Whatever the reason, it has been a most unfortunate decision in the view of the writer, because the Society is gambling with its own future. While it can always return to the ideas expressed in 1955 and 1963, if the year 1975 passes without incident, undoubtedly irreparable damage will then have been done to the faith and confidence of so many in the Society as God's channel of communication. As I mentioned in the preface, it would seem that 1975 will be a year of doom, if not for the world, then for Jehovah's Witnesses. So much for the illusion of the last days with which the witnesses are so caught up, but it is time that we return to our Mr. Jones to see how he is faring. That's a reference to the early part of the book, which we haven't covered yet, where he sets up the conversation with a Mr. Jones and unfolds most of the Watchtower's, not just their teachings, but their inner workings and how the congregations are organized, etc. But obviously, Stevenson's expectation that 1975 would be a year of doom for the witnesses didn't come true. How were they able to patch that? Well, that's another issue. But the point is that people believe what they want to believe. The witnesses believe what they want to believe, not because it's been proved to them individually. They are victims of mind control, and that's also true of people outside the so-called cults. The whole world right now seems to be believing what it wants to believe, and that puts a lie to the assumption or the faith of the Enlightenment, which was, if we just get more light, we will come to a new phase of human maturity. What a lie that was. So postmodernism doesn't have the answer. No, modernism didn't have the answer either. Jehovah's Witnesses certainly don't have the answer, but cults continue to thrive while people are scrambling around for some explanation of what's going on. I wanted to put a link in to review the record. This is where Watchtower said during the very period building up to 1975 that if we wanted to know which organization God is using, which prophet today there is for us to find and follow, all we had to do is check the record of the Watchtower to see that they collectively are the faithful and wise servant. The prophet Ezekiel, the Ezekiel class, the John class, etc., etc. Review the record. We responded to that with 3 videos. I'll put the first one on your screen, and also the part of the playlist that the Review the Record series is in, which is were Jehovah's Witnesses ever God's organization? We picked that title because so many ex-witnesses think they were once God's organization, but something went wrong over the last generation. No, they were never God's organization, and they never had God's Spirit. So I'll put that link to Review the Record Part 1 on your screen and the Ever playlist. See you soon.